Alcohol has been the silent destroyer of countless talented individuals throughout history. Unlike illegal drugs, alcohol's legal status often masks its devastating potential to ruin careers, destroy relationships, and ultimately claim lives. The following stories serve as stark reminders that talent, fame, and fortune offer no protection against the ravages of alcoholism. Musicians who died from alcohol. Amy Winehouse, 1983 to 2011. Amy Winehouse possessed one of the most distinctive voices in modern music, but her extraordinary talent was overshadowed by her very public battle with alcohol and drugs. The British singer-songwriter's death at age 27 was officially ruled as alcohol poisoning, with blood alcohol levels 5 times the legal driving limit. Her album Back to Black became a posthumous success, but Amy herself never lived to see its full impact. In her final years, she was more known for her erratic behavior and canceled concerts than her musical genius. The paparazzi documented every stumble, every slurred word, and every public breakdown, creating a tragic spectacle that overshadowed her artistic achievements. Hank Williams, 1923 to 1953. The father of modern country music, Hank Williams died at just 29 years old from heart failure caused by a combination of alcohol and prescription drugs. Williams had struggled with alcoholism throughout his short but prolific career, often showing up to performances intoxicated or missing shows entirely. His drinking problem cost him his marriage to Audrey Shepherd and eventually his membership in the Grand Ole Opry. Despite writing classics like Your Cheating Heart and I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, Williams spent his final years as a shadow of his former self, fired from the Opry and struggling to maintain steady work. He died alone in the backseat of a car on New Year's Day 1953, leaving behind a legacy of brilliant music and a cautionary tale about the destructive power of alcohol. Bon Scott, 1946 to 1980. Ronald Belford. Bon Scott, the original lead singer of AC/DC, was found dead in a friend's car in London after a night of heavy drinking. The official cause of death was listed as acute alcohol poisoning and death by misadventure. Scott had been known for his wild lifestyle and legendary alcohol consumption, which became part of his rock and roll persona. However, his drinking had escalated to dangerous levels by 1980. Friends reported that he could consume enormous quantities of alcohol and still function, but on that fatal February night, his tolerance finally failed him. Scott's death came just as AC/DC was poised for international breakthrough success with their Highway to Hell album. His replacement, Brian Johnson, would lead the band to even greater heights. But Scott's untimely death remains one of rock music's greatest losses. Keith Moon, 1946 to 1978. Keith Moon, the wild drummer of The Who, was as famous for his destructive lifestyle as he was for his revolutionary drumming style. Moon's relationship with alcohol was legendary and terrifying in equal measure. He would frequently destroy hotel rooms, drive cars into swimming pools, and consume dangerous cocktails of alcohol and drugs. His behavior became increasingly erratic throughout the 1970s, affecting his performance and reliability. Moon's final years were marked by bloating, health problems, and a desperate attempt to get clean. He died from an overdose of clomethiazole, a drug prescribed to treat alcohol withdrawal, highlighting the vicious cycle of addiction and attempted recovery. His death marked the beginning of the end for The Who's classic lineup and robbed rock music of one of its most innovative and energetic performers. Jim Morrison, 1943 to 1971. Jim Morrison, the charismatic frontman of The Doors, died in Paris at age 27 under circumstances that remain mysterious to this day. While the official cause was listed as heart failure, those close to Morrison knew that his heavy drinking and drug use had taken a severe toll on his health. Morrison had developed a serious alcohol problem that worsened as The Doors' fame grew. He would often perform while heavily intoxicated, leading to unpredictable and sometimes controversial performances. His drinking contributed to legal troubles, including his infamous arrest in Miami for alleged indecent exposure. By the time he moved to Paris in 1971, Morrison was attempting to focus on his poetry and escape the pressures of rock stardom, but his alcohol dependency followed him. His death in a Paris bathtub remains shrouded in mystery, but alcohol undoubtedly played a role in his early demise. Actors and entertainers who lost everything. Mel Gibson. Once one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors and most successful directors, Mel Gibson's career was devastated by alcohol-fueled incidents that revealed disturbing aspects of his personality. Gibson's problems became public in 2006 when he was arrested for drunk driving in Malibu. During his arrest, he made anti-Semitic remarks that were recorded and later released to the media. This incident cost him millions in lost projects and damaged relationships throughout Hollywood. Further alcohol-related incidents followed, including recorded phone calls with his ex-girlfriend that contained racist and misogynistic language. Gibson, who had earned hundreds of millions from films like Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ, found himself persona non grata in Hollywood. While he has attempted comebacks, his career never fully recovered from the damage caused by his alcohol-fueled outbursts. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan transformed from a promising child star into a cautionary tale about the destructive power of alcohol and fame. Starting with roles in The Parent Trap and Mean Girls, Lohan seemed destined for A-list stardom. However, her struggles with alcohol began in her late teens and quickly spiraled out of control. Multiple DUI arrests, court appearances, and stints in rehabilitation facilities became regular tabloid fodder. Her erratic behavior and unreliability made her uninsurable for major film productions, effectively ending her Hollywood career. Lohan's estimated $30 million in career earnings was largely squandered on legal fees, rehabilitation costs, and poor financial decisions made while under the influence. Her fall from grace was particularly tragic because it was so public and seemingly preventable. Charlie Sheen Carlos Estevez, known professionally as Charlie Sheen, was once the highest-paid actor on television, earning $1.8 million per episode for 2.5 Men. However, his long-standing battles with alcohol and drugs ultimately cost him everything. Sheen's erratic behavior, fueled by substance abuse, became increasingly difficult for producers to manage. His public meltdowns, including bizarre interviews where he claimed to have tiger blood and be winning, became internet memes but also demonstrated the extent of his problems. CBS fired him from 2.5 Men in 2011, costing him approximately $100 million in future earnings. His subsequent projects failed to recapture his success, and his personal life continued to unravel with multiple divorces, legal battles, and health issues. Sheen's story illustrates how alcohol and drugs can destroy even the most lucrative entertainment careers. David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff achieved global fame through Knight Rider and Baywatch, becoming one of the most recognizable faces in entertainment. However, his struggle with alcoholism became a public spectacle that overshadowed his professional achievements. Videos of Hasselhoff drunk and incoherent surfaced online, including a particularly disturbing recording made by his teenage daughter showing him trying to eat a hamburger while severely intoxicated. These incidents cost him lucrative endorsement deals and damaged his reputation internationally. While Hasselhoff has sought treatment multiple times and attempted comebacks, his career never fully recovered from the damage caused by his very public struggles with alcohol. Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke was considered one of the most promising actors of the 1980s, with powerful performances in films like Diner and 9.5 Weeks. However, his career was derailed by alcoholism, drug use, and increasingly difficult behavior on set. Rourke's drinking problem led to unprofessional conduct that made him difficult to work with, causing directors and producers to avoid hiring him. He lost millions in potential earnings and was reduced to taking small roles in low-budget films. While Rourke eventually made a comeback with The Wrestler in 2008, his career never fully recovered from the damage done during his years of substance abuse. His story demonstrates how alcohol can destroy even the most promising Hollywood careers. Writers and artists lost to alcohol. Ernest Hemingway, 1899 to 1961. Ernest Hemingway, one of America's greatest writers, struggled with alcoholism throughout his life, a battle that ultimately contributed to his suicide at age 61. Hemingway's drinking was legendary, but it progressively worsened as he aged and faced declining health and creativity. His alcohol consumption affected his writing, relationships, and mental health. In his later years, paranoia and depression, exacerbated by chronic alcoholism, made him increasingly unstable. While Hemingway left behind a literary legacy, including The Sun Also Rises and For Whom the Bell Tolls, his personal life was marked by 4 marriages, numerous affairs, and increasing isolation. His death by shotgun in Idaho was officially ruled a suicide, but those close to him knew that alcohol had been slowly killing him for years. Jack Kerouac, 1922 to 1969. Jack Kerouac, the voice of the Beat Generation and author of On the Road, died at age 47 from complications related to chronic alcoholism. Despite his literary success and influence on American culture, Kerouac struggled with severe alcoholism that worsened after his rise to fame. He became increasingly reclusive and bitter, unable to handle the pressures of celebrity while battling his demons with alcohol. Kerouac's drinking affected his writing, his relationships, and his health. He developed cirrhosis of the liver and suffered from various alcohol-related health problems. His death from internal bleeding caused by cirrhosis marked the end of a brilliant but troubled literary career. Kerouac's legacy as a writer remains intact, but his personal story serves as a reminder of alcohol's destructive power. Tennessee Williams, 1911 to 1983. Tennessee Williams, one of America's greatest playwrights, became increasingly dependent on alcohol and prescription drugs following his early successes with A Streetcar Named Desire and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Williams used alcohol to cope with his homosexuality in an era when it was socially unacceptable, as well as to deal with the pressures of maintaining his literary reputation. His drinking and drug use affected his later works, which were generally considered inferior to his early masterpieces. Williams spent his final decades battling addiction, depression, and declining health. While he continued to write until his death, his productivity and quality suffered significantly due to his substance abuse problems. The financial cost of alcoholism. The financial impact of alcoholism on celebrities extends far beyond the obvious costs of purchasing alcohol. Legal fees from DUI arrests, property damage, and civil lawsuits can quickly mount into millions of dollars. Rehabilitation facilities charge enormous fees, often hundreds of thousands of dollars for extended treatment programs. More significantly, alcoholism costs celebrities their earning potential through canceled projects, broken contracts, and damaged reputations that make them uninsurable or unemployable. Insurance companies often refuse to cover productions featuring actors with known substance abuse problems, effectively blacklisting them from major projects. This insurance issue alone has cost numerous celebrities tens of millions in potential earnings. Additionally, the unpredictable behavior associated with alcoholism leads to breached contracts, which can result in massive financial penalties and lawsuits. Personal relationships also suffer financial consequences. Divorces caused by alcohol-related behavior often involve enormous settlements, child support payments, and legal fees. Many celebrities have lost half or more of their wealth through alcohol-related divorce proceedings. The unique challenges facing celebrities. Celebrities face unique challenges when battling alcoholism. The entertainment industry has a culture that often normalizes heavy drinking, making it difficult for individuals to recognize when their consumption becomes problematic. The constant pressure of public scrutiny, combined with easy access to alcohol at industry events, creates an environment where alcoholism can flourish unchecked. Furthermore, the financial resources available to celebrities can actually enable their addiction. While ordinary people might be forced to confront their drinking problem when they run out of money, wealthy celebrities can continue drinking for years or even decades without facing immediate financial consequences. This enables them to avoid seeking help until their problems have become severe and potentially irreversible. The isolation that often accompanies fame can also contribute to alcohol abuse. Many celebrities report feeling lonely and disconnected despite being surrounded by people. Alcohol becomes a way to cope with these feelings, but it ultimately exacerbates the underlying problems. Athletes and sports figures destroyed by alcohol. George Best, 1946 to 2005. George Best was arguably one of the most naturally gifted footballers in history, blessed with extraordinary skill, pace, and an almost supernatural ability to read the game. Playing for Manchester United during their golden era in the 1960s, Best became the first football superstar in the modern sense, combining athletic brilliance with movie star looks and charisma. However, his relationship with alcohol began early in his career and would ultimately destroy everything he had worked to achieve. Best's drinking initially seemed manageable, part of the glamorous lifestyle that came with being a football icon in swinging London. However, as the pressures of fame intensified and personal relationships became strained, alcohol became his primary coping mechanism. His performances on the pitch began to suffer as his drinking escalated. He would miss training sessions, arrive at matches hungover, and his once legendary fitness deteriorated rapidly. The financial cost of Best's alcoholism was staggering. At his peak, he was one of the highest-paid athletes in the world, with lucrative endorsement deals and business ventures that should have set him up for life. However, his drinking led to poor business decisions, failed investments, and enormous expenses related to his lifestyle. He opened several nightclubs and restaurants that failed due to his inability to manage them properly while battling addiction. Best's career effectively ended in his mid-20s, just as he should have been entering his prime years. Multiple comeback attempts failed as his alcohol dependency had become too severe. He spent the remaining decades of his life in and out of rehabilitation facilities, making promises to fans and family that he was unable to keep. His liver eventually failed due to decades of alcohol abuse, and despite receiving a liver transplant in 2002, he continued drinking and died 3 years later at age 59. Wade Boggs, still living, recovery story. While Wade Boggs survived his alcohol problems and had a Hall of Fame baseball career, his story illustrates how alcohol nearly derailed one of the most consistent hitters in baseball history. Boggs was famous not just for his batting average, but also for his legendary alcohol consumption. He claimed to drink 64 beers on cross-country flights and maintained this level of consumption throughout his playing career. What made Boggs unique was his ability to function at an elite level while consuming enormous quantities of alcohol. However, this variability masked the severity of his problem and prevented him from recognizing the need for help. His alcohol consumption affected his personal life, leading to publicized affairs and family problems that cost him millions in divorce settlements and damaged his reputation. The financial impact extended beyond personal costs. While Boggs maintained his performance on the field, his off-field behavior affected his marketability and endorsement potential. Companies were reluctant to associate their brands with someone whose drinking habits were so well publicized and extreme. Reality TV stars and modern celebrities. Artie Lange. Artie Lange's career as a comedian and radio personality on The Howard Stern Show was destroyed by his battle with alcohol and drugs. Lange's addiction cost him his position on one of radio's most popular shows, worth millions annually. His erratic behavior, including showing up to work intoxicated and missing shows entirely, made him unreliable and ultimately unemployable in his primary profession. The financial devastation was comprehensive. Lange spent hundreds of thousands on drugs and alcohol, lost income from canceled shows and appearances, and faced enormous medical bills from multiple overdoses and suicide attempts. His addiction also led to legal troubles, including arrests that resulted in additional legal fees and lost opportunities. Lange's story is particularly tragic because his addiction played out in public, documented on radio and social media for millions to witness. This public nature of his decline made it even more difficult to rebuild his career, as potential employers and collaborators were aware of the extent of his problems. Johnny Manziel, the former Heisman Trophy winner known as Johnny Football, saw his promising NFL career destroyed by alcohol and partying. Manziel's college success at Texas A&M made him a household name and the 22nd overall pick in the NFL draft by the Cleveland Browns. However, his off-field behavior, characterized by excessive drinking and clubbing, quickly overshadowed his athletic abilities. The financial impact of Manziel's alcohol problems was immediate and severe. His rookie contract with the Browns was worth over $8 million, but his unreliable behavior led to his release after just 2 seasons. Subsequent attempts to play in other leagues were similarly unsuccessful due to his continued drinking problems. Manziel's marketability, which should have generated millions in endorsement deals, was completely destroyed by his reputation for partying and drinking. Companies that had shown initial interest quickly distanced themselves as his problems became more apparent in public. The stories of these talented individuals serve as powerful reminders that alcohol addiction does not discriminate based on talent, wealth, or fame. In many cases, these very attributes may have actually contributed to the severity of their problems by enabling continued drinking and delaying necessary intervention. While some celebrities have successfully overcome their alcohol problems and rebuilt their careers and lives, the ones discussed here represent the tragic outcomes that can result when addiction goes unchecked. Their deaths and financial ruin serve as cautionary tales for current and future generations of entertainers, as well as anyone struggling with alcohol dependency. The entertainment industry has begun to recognize the need for better support systems and intervention programs for its members. However, the fundamental challenge remains: how to help individuals who have unlimited resources and whose careers may actually depend on maintaining a public image that conflicts with seeking help for addiction. These stories remind us that behind the glamour and success of celebrity life, real people struggle with real problems. Alcohol addiction is a disease that can affect anyone, regardless of their achievements or social status. The key to prevention lies in early recognition, intervention, and the understanding that seeking help for addiction is a sign of strength, not weakness. The economic costs extend far beyond the individuals themselves, affecting entire industries and creating ripple effects that touch everyone, from insurance companies to production crews. As our understanding of addiction science improves and social attitudes toward mental health and substance abuse continue to evolve, there is hope that future generations of celebrities will have better support systems and more effective treatment. Options available to them before their problems reach the devastating levels described in these cautionary tales.